Welcome back to the channel and thanks for listening in. And today is going to be a special day in which I dive in a 4-part video. But the first part is going to talk about is feeding your fish. You guys see a bunch of fish behind me and they eat a lot of variety of food. And most of the time in the fish keeping hobby, we misunderstood about how to accurately feed our fish and how to actually make sure they grow big and large. So if you see in front of me here, I got a lot of food that I feed my fish, which is a variety of food from shrimp. You got sinking pellets, you got floating pellets from marijuana, you got some jumbo krill, you got some wafers, I got some small sinking pellets, and I got smaller sizes of floating pellets from marijuana. Now, obviously this is what I would call my tilapia, but a variety of food. So most of us don't understand there are 3 big energy sources of feeding fish. 1 being protein, 2 being lipids, which is your fats, and 3 being carbohydrates. Most oftentimes, protein and lipids give the fish a lot of energy. And most of the time, the energy is how they grow big, how they flourish, and that's how you feed your fish. Well, let's break it down very simple. Feeding fish are very expensive and it costs a lot of money, but most of us understand that that's how they actually grow. So most often, we got sinking pellets here for the bottom feeders. We got floating pellets here. We got your krill right here, which obviously are cheaper and come in bigger bulk. The more expensive proteins like shrimp or tilapia are more expensive. However, the reason why you want to feed a variety of fish food to your fish is that, guess what? Most people don't understand how they make sinking pellets is this. If they use dry krill, they use yeast, and they use actually meal to actually make this sinking pellet. Now I'll explain later why it sinks, but that's how they make it actually get this color and either float or sink. Now, if you look at dry krill, which is right here, dry krill is this. So obviously this is dry krill, and obviously there's a lot of protein in something that's actually dry. So what happens is most of the time we feed our fish pellets, wafers, small sticking pellets, or arowana food. Some have a different food up there, but for those out there, that's how we actually feed our fish, is through some food. Now, what we need to understand is that most of the time, the protein we feed through these pellets is not enough protein for the size of the fish. The fish behind me here, they get a combination of sinking pellets and a high protein diet of tilapia, or you see here shrimp, because it's higher energy. And obviously these guys swim a lot, so they need a lot of energy, and that's why you want to feed them a lot of protein. Now, how do they get their fats? Usually fats will come from the food they eat, so that's why a lot of this food has refortified yeast, or they have refortified starches to give them their actual lipids itself. Now, when I mentioned earlier about carbohydrates is the last thing to give fish actually their energy, but carbohydrates are found in, guess what, other things, like let's say sinking pellets, veggie wafers. That's where you're going to find a lot of carbohydrates from the vegetable protein. But most fish, they rely on the protein sources. Now, what we'll explain this is that frequency in feeding is really important in sourcing a fish itself. Now, depending on the size and how much they swim, the more you got to feed. So let's think about small little fish that you see every day, or small baby fish. Now, baby fish, they need to be fed more frequently and more often because they got to grow fast. So that can stem from feeding, let's say, arowana pellets if it's a small arowana, or you can get some sinking pellets here, or you can do small pieces of shrimp here. But they can be fed more frequently. Now let's talk about my large monster fish here. Now, for most monster fish, for them, I feed them at least once a day or once every other day, depending upon the quantity of feed I feed them. Now, because they have a high protein diet and because they swim around a lot, I gotta feed them a lot of high quality protein frequently. So that's why I feed them a lot of tilapia and a lot of shrimp, because they're a very active fish. We want to consider when feeding your fish is an activity of the fish. If the fish swims around a lot in the tank, or like stingrays, which I have, they poop a lot, they produce a lot of ammonia, guess what? You got to make sure you do the water changes as well too. So that's also a part of care of feeding a fish. If they're not getting adequate water changes, they're not feeding well, and guess what? Sorry, not eating well, so that means they're not going to happen, not going to eat itself. So that's the first step, is getting your protein down, understanding where the sources are. Like I said earlier, fish meal, starch, and meal are found in the pellets here. Some of the wafers here, arowanas here, and here. My tilapia is a lot more high, denser kind of protein, so that's what, then it's not fortified anything else. It's straight up tilapia and shrimp. So with that being said, is you have to add things into the fish's diet. So that's why I do VitaChem, add some of those minerals into their diet or vitamins into their diet by only feeding them just protein itself. But remember, this is my first step in kind of understanding, I hope you understand why feeding your fish is so important. So today we discuss protein, and read back every single label like I do here. What's in your food so you can understand what you're feeding your fish and where it comes from. If they're only eating one source of food, it means you're limiting their protein usages. So let's say, for example, you have this and this as protein sources. Mascon or sinky pellets, which are cheap, shrimp a little more expensive. Now, but think about this one, and in any protein sources, it's missing a lot of protein in their diet. Now I'll tell you what the 10 proteins are right now. Now with this protein source, actually have more protein in it than actually the sinking pellets. So that's why feeding a combination of shrimp and a combination of pellets will give them a more balanced diet and actually what they have. So I want to say thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and listen to our number 2 video.